So one of the things I first realized when I got into investment banking and private equity was the overwhelming sense that I thought I was coming into something where I was going to learn all the world's secrets from people who have gone on and done great things with companies and had all the secrets into how to start a company, how to run a company, how to finance a company, all of these really big powered people that had all of the answers and everything that there was to know about starting a business and getting wealthy. I was going to learn. I was really excited. I guess the word would be surprised about some of the things that I found, though. It was really interesting to see that actually there's usually two different types of people that start a business. There's folks that are salespeople, and there's folks that are technical people. Salespeople are very good at selling something, they're very good at generating revenue, they're very good at ultimately creating deals and making money come in. That is a real big key to any business that you see out in the real world. If you don't have a way for money to come in, there's no money being made. As a result, there's no business. The other side, though, were technical people, people who were really good at building something or making something or understanding a process, and then somehow built a business around it. It almost happened by accident. And one of the examples I have of that is one of the first deals I worked on at Jeffries was we were about to sell this business that made supports for air conditioners. You'll never ever realize that this is a thing, but if you ever go to somebody's house, usually out in the suburbs, and they have one of those air conditioning units on the side of their house that makes the whole house cool, typically they're sitting on this thing, and this thing is just really a concrete slab, or maybe it's a plastic slab. What this guy did was he created a business that made those slabs. They were these concrete squares, simplest thing in the world. Sometimes they were plastic, right? That ultimately people would buy as part of installing air conditioning into new homes or existing homes that needed to retrofit for air conditioning and have it sit on something. It needs to stay relatively flat. It needs a supportive surface, right? Easiest thing in the world. So one of the things that my MD at the time said, he was conflicted. He said, hey, I'm on this other call. I can't get off for a long time. This is really important. Nobody else is available but you, Dave, an analyst. I went there and started talking to him because I needed to put together information for what you call, at least at the time, a SIM. Now it's called a SIP. I walked in there really eager with a pad and pencil because we had computers at the time that didn't really move. That's not true. My laptop was available, but I didn't type on it. Pen and pencil. And I said, hey, I'm here to start off getting information about your story and understanding more about your business so that we can market it to people who might want to buy it. We already had people that were interested in buying it with a valuation of about, if I remember right, something like $25 million. This guy, before he came in, had absolutely nothing. Didn't have any marketing, didn't have a website, had nothing. But people wanted to buy it. So we said, yeah, we'll help and see if we can get you the best price possible. So I go in there and say, so tell me your business history. What do you do? And he said, well, sir, we make squares. And there was a long pause just like that. And I said, yeah. He said, yep, squares. I said, okay, what kind of squares do you make? He said, well, most squares I make go under air conditioners. They're made of concrete, but I make some of plastic. Not many. Most are made of concrete. And I said, okay. How did you get started doing that? He said, well, I was working with a guy who was doing construction, and he asked me to make a square for him, so I did. And I said, He said, yeah. And then there was another guy who knew that guy who asked me to start making squares for him, so I did. And I said, He said, and yeah, I got a factory, and I started making all kinds of squares for different people. And I said, yeah. He said, so now we make a couple different kinds of squares to put under these air conditioners, and that's what we do. And I put down my pen for a minute, and I was like, so you just started doing this because someone asked you? And I had this mental image of this guy in it with a cement mixer, basically in his backyard, just making a square and giving it to him and charging him some kind of price, right? And then you just started doing more of that because people asked you to? He said, yeah. I said, you never had any kind of marketing plan or like any type of computer research or anything like that? He said, no, I wouldn't even know how to do that, but I'm very good at making squares. I know how to do that really well. And I just had this washing moment come over me where I said, this guy isn't some technical genius. He's not some kind of sophisticated business person. He's just a guy that was good at something that someone paid him to do and then expanded because he was good at that thing. There was no secret sauce. There was no kind of even ambition to it. He just started doing something because someone asked him to, and he made some money from it and started doing it a little bit more and a little bit more. Doesn't have any sense of a financial model, doesn't have any sense of, high-powered finance that you put a bond on. Nothing like that. Nothing. He was good at making squares. It was the simplest thing in the entire world. Now, the place that he did perk up, right? I asked, okay, how do you make a square? He said, well, let me tell you. First thing, and he started from memory listing all the different ratios of the cement to the components and the drying time and how many he could manufacture an hour. He knew how the business worked. He knew the technical aspects of it. Wasn't a salesperson by any means, but was very good at doing what he did. That's a technically proficient person. That's a technically proficient person. That's somebody that's going to be very good at explaining what the process is or what the product is and how it's beneficial to someone simply because they're good at making it, not because they're really well versed in, be sales psychology or whatever it's going to be in order to sell the thing. They were just good at making the thing. That's where he perked up and started reciting from memory all the different components of what it took to make a square. And I had this watershed moment come over me of like, this guy's about to make $25 million. He didn't have any debt on the business, nothing to pay. He's about to make $25 million. And he almost did this accidentally or maybe serendipitously in a way that he didn't quite understand what he was doing at the time, but eventually built a business or maybe what he would have called a living in doing it. That's really interesting to me because you don't need a financial model. You don't need glossy advertising. You don't need any of that. What you need is to be good at something or have an idea that's going to solve something for somebody and then ultimately have someone that's going to want to buy it for more money than it took you to make it or the cost it took you to make it. That ultimately is what a business is. It's a way to produce something or give someone something for a certain amount of money that is in excess of what it took you to produce it. That, in a sense, is a business. And this person successfully ran a business for several years this way without a piece of information or a dashboard or a board meeting, any of that, and was about to become a millionaire because this air conditioning manufacturer said, yeah, why don't we just buy that instead of having it sold as a package? We can make it part of the package ourselves. I thought that was really kind of interesting because it showed me that a lot of the things I took from the news or things I had read in different places and things I had learned in school, it's not that it doesn't matter. I would suggest that you do have a lot of these things, but you can be successful without it. You can be successful without it. All you need is for someone to be willing to pay you for something that you're good at and make that something charged at a higher price than what it took you to make it.